Cezary, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kasia. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am very glad to introduce you my today's topic, the pottery sequence of Mbacké in Central West Senegal, perspectives and challenges in the quantitative approach to pottery. And at the very beginning of the speech, I would like to tell you in Sub-Saharan Africa, in many regions of Sub-Saharan Africa, we've got this very big problem, very big issue, that when we start to work in a new region or we just start a new project, we've got this problem that we do not have any chronologies, we do not have any pottery sequences. It's a very common problem, not only in some parts of Senegal, but also, for example, in my recent work area in Chad, it's also a big issue that we do not have many data, yeah, because Africa is a very great continent and it is not researched enough to have a glimpse in all areas, what means the, for example, chronology or pottery or some basic information. So at the very beginning, I would like to say that this speech is about very, very basic research. I'm going to establish chronology, first chronology. And in the area, it was very, very big problem almost until today, that there in the Tumuli region of Mbacké, we had very big problems to find pottery, to find reliable, good preserved pottery, and to found the pottery in archaeological context, to establish chronology at all. 2019 and 2020, I worked there as a part of the project of Professor Dr. Mbacké from the University Frankfurt, and I was there responsible for excavation. At the very first time in the research history of the area, we managed to find enough good preserved pottery, which was used after it to establishing this chronology. Of course, I had a lot of problems. So, for example, I had problems with reliability of stratigraphy, as well as problems with reliability of C14 data. So it was very problematic, and normal approach, just like a normal stratigraphical sequence combined with C14 data, it was not possible to do. What I decided to do, I decided to use some quantitative approaches, some quantitative methods, statistical methods to this material, to, from one side, establish the relative chronology of the material, and from the other side, I wanted to combine this relative chronology with absolute thermoluminescence. So with thermoluminescence, we do not need any charcoal or something like this. We can just date the pottery itself. So I decided to choose from each part of the chronological sequence some relative shelves to date it. And in this way, I received the first chronology for the region at all, which brought us quite interesting data also for the power contacts between the regions. Yeah, but we will see during this presentation. Before we start, I would like to give you a very, very short glimpse about my content so that you can easily follow my presentation. So at first, I would like to make very short introduction in the archaeological landscape of Senegal and Tumuli region of Mbacké, because Senegal is archaeologically very, very interesting place. And yeah, it's difficult to speak about archaeological parts of Senegal. Normally, we use this archaeological landscape, archaeological regions as term to describe the past. After it, I would like to go to give you a glimpse in previous pottery research. So I'm going to show you what previous researchers done. So, for example, in north of Senegal or in south, we've got very nice digs, but not in my working area. Until yet, we haven't found many pottery in my area. So, but it's very nice to have some glimpse just to see what are differences and similarities between regions, and it's quite interesting. And after it, we are going to my part. We are going to the previous pottery. We are going to the new project in the Tumuli region. So a little bit, I would like to speak a little bit about new project of Mbacké, and after all, we are going to my new approach of the pottery. So I would like to speak about methods which I used in establishing of my relative sequence, and also I would like to speak about the results of this sequence. At the very end, it will be for us the approach point for further discussion, maybe from some results, and yeah, maybe also to consider some cover goals for the week. Yeah, but at first, archaeological landscape of Senegal. So at first, there was the question, where is the tumuli region of Mbacké? So it's very, very small part of the whole tumuli zone. It is placed almost in the center of tumuli zone in central west Senegal, about 200 kilometers to the east from Dakar, 200 kilometers to the east from Dakar, and the region lies in the near of very, very big city. It's called Cuba. A lot of pilgrims are going there every year, like to Mecca, so very important city for Muslims. And there we were. Yeah, but what are the other regions, archaeological? What are the other archaeological landscapes of Senegal? So at first, as I already mentioned, we've got the problems to describe Senegal past. We still use such terms like, for example, Iron Age, or we still use the terms like Senegal River Valley or megalithic. It's no perfect situation, but we do not have enough research approaches, also ethnographical and historical approaches to speak better about the past. So we still use this term. Yeah, and in the time about 8th to 18th century AD, we've got in Senegal these 4 big archaeological zones, and every archaeological zone is characterized by some special types of archaeological material, and also by special types of archaeological remnants, also architecture. And at first, I would like to start with Senegal River Valley. Senegal River Valley, it lays completely to the north. Here we've got one photo from Macintosh and all from 2016. And what is so special there? There we've got something what we know from the Near East, so something like pale settlement. It's caused when one settlement is accumulating on each other. So we've got a lot of different layers from different settlements, from different periods on one place. So it all accumulates in the form of the heap. So actually, when you find one such site, you can have very nice glimpse or very nice introduction in many archaeological things. Yeah, and this region is one of the best research regions in Senegal, near the megalithic zone. So here we've got very nice botanical data, very nice archaeological data, archaeometallurgical data, also very nice pottery sequence. So a lot of data. When we go farther to the west, we've got Chalmidens area. So it's area very similar to the tumuli region. There we've got also big hills which were used as a funerary architecture. But instead of air, they were built of thousands of 100,000 millions of mollusk shells, which were consumed all the time during the generation, because we are there on the coastal region in the near of Atlantic Ocean. So the mollusks are until today very important part of the diet in this time. And to this area, we've got very scarce information. We've got only very few data to pottery and also the other aspects of archaeological research. So most of their publications are 1970s or even earlier, and it is not so much. So it's very problematic. In comparison to it, megalithic zone is very nice research. So there we've got a lot of data, and the special characteristic thing for this zone are these megalithic circles. Of course, we've got 4 typologies of these megalithic circles. We've got many forms of them. We've got even many forms of stones which were used to build them. But what is for us more interesting, we've got many nice archaeological data on the site, also many nice data to pottery, which I am going to show you afterwards. And yeah, the circles were not only used as a funerary architecture, but it is possible that they were used also as ritual sites, maybe in the ancestor site. But of course, after so many hundreds of years, it's difficult to to give any answer on this question. And at the very end, we've got the tumuli zone, so the region where I established the first chronology. And yeah, here on the photo on the bottom, we see one of the tumuli from the outside. And yeah, maybe on the photo it's not especially impressive, but when you stay there, they are really, really very great, about 20 meters high. So it's one of the best examples of the monumental funerary architecture from Africa. And yeah, we had also some researches about tumuli zone. Not the pottery. Pottery was not very good research, but some of the tumulis were excavated. For example, during the World War II by Goethe, or almost today by Professor Dr. Zonia Magnavita. She excavated there one of the hills, and there she found the burial of several individuals. One of them was buried very carefully with very, very nice gold and silver objects, and other also with weapons, and other laid chaotic on each other. So it's called mort d'accompagnement from the French literature, and yeah, maybe it is possible that the several other chaotic lying individuals were killed by the burial of this main person. It is possible that this main person was a chieftain or somebody like this. So it's not easy to give answer for this question, but it's very important and interesting aspect of the alphabet. Yeah, but of course it's very easy to find tumuli, but other archaeological remains are in many regions very difficult to see. And as you already said, we've got very nice chronologies from the north and from the south, but in the middle Senegal, we do not have any good data. And at first, I would like to speak about a little bit about the photos from the north, Tibre, Kubaba, and Sinkubara. So here we can see actually a very nice transition from about 200 AD to 1000 AD. We've got many different data. What is so important for us, for example, that we've got in this region so-called coloriturim pottery, which was produced from about 550 AD. So Mackintosh and Mackintosh also assumed that maybe some pottery was discovered. So we will see afterwards how this in the future looks like. And also we've got very nice data in the south due to our French colleagues, and we've got very nice data to especially to the tutorial pottery, and we can see also very nice transition. When we go further to the west, we've got products. So for example, in Salom Delta, where we have very scarce data for archaeology, we knew only very few things about the pottery. So special pottery there, it's this double rim pottery with this very, very beautiful types of lids, but we do not have so many info. And the same situation was also in the tumuli zone. So there we have only one paper which was addressed to pottery. It was paper from Mackintosh and Mackin, and they visited the region in about at the very end of 1980, and they said, yeah, it's possible to collect some but preserved material from the surface, so we can read some data, but it is not possible to establish the chronology. It's not possible because at first the material is not good preserved enough, and secondly, there are no supporting data now because it's from the surface. They made some estimation, they made some observations. So for example, they observed that this region of Mbacké, for example, was also dominated by coloriturim pottery, like the region in the north. They also estimated more similarities with pottery from the north, and estimated the pottery age from this tumuli region from about 700 to 100 AD. But more, it was not possible to tell because they assumed that probably very intensive agriculture there in the region is causing that the archaeological remains are disappearing and are very difficult to find. And until today, we haven't had any chronology in the region. It's not possible to establish it. Yeah, and it was not possible until this time. So 2019, Sonia Magnavita started her new project there. And the main aim of this project was to test the whole area with these big devices. So the project was made in the cooperation with German Archaeological Institute. And these big devices were used to make geomagnetic of the sites to see if we can find, localize some more remains. Yeah, because tumuli are very easy to find, but other remains are still scattered. And also during this project, we had the possibility to make excavation. And at this time, it was possible for me to take the part in the project as an assistant student. I was there responsible for the making of excavation. I made many friendships, for example, in the near of Kael, but we haven't found any ceramic there. The only ceramic which we found was in the site Chichen, in the near of the site Chichen, on our geomagnetic field number 1. So the place we call Chichen 1. And in Chichen, we find at the very beginning the first good preserved pottery in the archaeological context, which was after it used by me in my master thesis to establish the chronology of the region. And here we can see how it looks like. So at the very beginning, we found some very good preserved shards on the surface. And after it, 2019, at first, I made very small frames. And after it, this very small frame was followed by much bigger excavations 2020. So actually until Corona pandemic. Yeah, and there we can see actually from the very surface, from the surface level to maybe here on the structure of promotion photo, you cannot see it very well, but in this further, in the deeper deeper levels, we can also we found also a lot of pottery. Actually, the site was full of pottery, so it was for us like a miracle. At the very first time in the research history, we got pottery there from archaeological context, which we can use to establish chronology. But what were the problems? So the problems were difficult structure. So at very first, as we excavated, it was really difficult to distinguish features between each other. So it was very possible that we had there are many features, but as I said, it was not possible in the first to distinguish between each other. We also used some different angles, like for example, this stretch on the photos to see if when we change contrast, it is possible to see it. It was very difficult. Also, what was very important, we had mix of different types of material codes. So very, very different. But it was my first observation, my first intuition that the material culture is very difficult, very different, maybe from different periods. It was very possible. And also we had the problems in finding reliable samples for the feature. I mean here supporting samples. So it was really difficult to find a reliable supporting data. And we haven't reached any reliable supporting data. And I would like also to speak a little bit about this mix of different types of material culture. So here I provided you some basic example of basic seriation. I found it somewhere in the internet, but yeah, this very basic seriation show us transition from one type of great inscription somewhere in the US to the another. You can see in that time it changes gradually. And now just try to imagine that instead of great inscriptions, we've got different pottery types. And instead of this chronology, we've got our stratigraphical labels. So actually, when we had some transition on something like this, the diagram would be look somewhere in this way. So it was not the fall at all. So as I made different types of as I established different types of pottery, as I made this variation, I received such results. So it seems that everything was a little bit mixed together, and it is not possible to see any transition. So I have two hypotheses. The first hypothesis was it is all from the same time, but the results I received afterwards said that it was not possible. It's not everything from the same time, if the material was real. So now is the question, how is it possible to establish the chronology from mixed material? And to make it, I decided to work with R. R is something like programming language for computing statistics. not only very complicated statistics, but you can make also with very, very basic bar plot, but also when you want, you can use it to make network analysis, correspondence analysis, also to make clustering and everything. And I decided to use quantitative research methods from one side to establish this relative chronology, and from the other side to combine the relative chronology with thermoluminescences. And of course, it was necessary to understand very good the whole data set. So I made a lot of analysis. Here I provide you only a few examples here. So I have to see what is relevant, what is not relevant. What can I use, for example, for finding correlation, what I cannot do. So I have to analyze the material very carefully and to show you what was important during this research and what was not relevant and what I haven't used to establish this relative chronology. I decided to use the flying pots. So this method I used already during the CAFA meeting in Houston in the United States. So at first, at the very beginning, all for me was as well as mixed. So here we can already distinguish that we have some different types of pottery. This pot other than this pot. This vessel is other than other vessel. But yeah, it's not enough to establish any groups of it. It's not enough to establish any sequence. So what I decided, first I observed on my diagram that we have some very big differences between the material, and for me it was the first step at all to distinguish the material in the group. I established something like traditions. So traditions were for me big groups of pottery. Of course, in one tradition, as we can see here on the slide, one tradition we still have very many different types of pottery, but we can see that every tradition had some similarity. So, for example, in red tradition, we've got only slip rim shot, mostly red slip rim shot. So, because of this, I gave the name. Black tradition, it was pottery which was burned in reduced milieu, in reduced environment. So that the pottery, the whole pottery, also in the core of the shell, the pottery was there. So it was very important observation that I used to the parent. And as a rural tradition, I called the group of pottery what was neither black burnish nor red stick. So also had some differences. The other groups, yeah, what I made it with this power. So in every tradition, I had to find groups of vessel types. So I decided to cluster this, my data set. Every tradition was clustered. And so I established 17 different clusters. I established 17 different clusters, and every cluster represents one type of the vessel. And so, for example, here on the example, we've got red tradition, 10 clusters. In black tradition, we had 4 clusters, and in roulette tradition, 3 clusters. So altogether, 17 different types of vessels. And here I provided you next example. Here we've got an example from black tradition cluster number 3. And here we can see that all of the vessels have similar diameter. All of the vessels, yeah, they are just similar. Yeah, so there are more similarities than differences in one. So I made the differentiation of material in the groups. It was necessary to understand how my data set looks like, but it do not provide us any cover, any relative segment. It was necessary to use some other categories to provide such relative segment. And in search of this, I observed that we've got very interesting data in the decoration. So altogether, in the whole data set, where I observed 27 different decoration techniques. And yeah, after my many observations and yeah, all what I've already seen in Sub-Saharan Africa, for example, in Chad, I have to say that 27 different decoration techniques, it's very much. So for one side, it's a very big data set of different techniques, and it's very interesting. So it can theoretically represent that we have to do something to do with bigger period of time. But what was for me even more important, I had 132 combinations of decoration. So it was very big data set. And it is also very special for this reason because I observed that on one pot we can have 2, 3, or even 4 different decoration techniques. And this combination of the decoration techniques were supposed to be very important for the chronology. So I decided, here I provided you some examples how it looks like. So for example, here on the example completely to the right, we've got some pottery from the Black tradition. It was decorated together with some incision and also plastic decoration. We can also see some roulettes, some different kinds of roulettes. Sometimes they are with simple incisions, sometimes they are with complicated incisions. Sometimes we've got completely to the left, we've got different types of comp incisions. So also some combination of different techniques. And my approach was to see if we've got any correlation of the one. In order to do it, I just make correspondence analysis of different decoration types. And here the blue points and red triangulars are representing different types of decoration on one person. And the results were indeed very interesting because I discovered correlation between different types of the decoration. So, for example, I observed that we've got a very big group of pottery which was only decorated with different types of incisions, which we can see on the right bottom part of the diagram. And in the opposite to it, we've got a completely other group which is not corresponding to it. So the pottery group, which was produced mostly with different types of roulettes and sometimes with simple incision. We can see it completely on the left bottom part of the diagram. And we've got also third group, which is a little bit mix of these two groups. So it is group which was produced with some plastic decor, some incisions, and also with some roulettes. And this middle group is corresponding with right group and with the left group as well. So yeah, in conclusion, we've got this right group, which is not corresponding with the left, and the left, which is not corresponding with the right. And in the middle, we've got some group which has the similarities to the bone groups. Why it was so important? So at first, I considered all information which I had about this correlation in decoration. Afterwards, I combined this decoration data with vessel types. And also I considered similarities with other media. And I received the data. So for example, after I combined the data about different decoration techniques with vessel types, it was very easy to see that the Black tradition completely to the left, to the right, it represents this group from the correspondence diagram, which was on the right. It was the group which was never produced, which was never decorated with different roulettes. As well, we've got this middle group, which in which we have as well as the forms which are corresponding with the right group and with the left group. And the same was with the decoration techniques used in the middle group. And completely in the left group, we've got this mix of the roulette tradition and mix of red tradition, which were produced mostly using different parts, different kinds of roulettes. So concluding, we see something like the transition from one data set which was produced only with roulettes to the one data set which was produced only with incision. But for me, it was not possible to say, oh, this part of the diagram is younger, this part of the diagram is older. It was not possible. So here we can see also in the time axis, I do not have any idea where the beginning is when the end is. So I decided to make thermoluminescence analysis of every part of the diagram, of every part of this relative chronology. And so I received absolute data. So the first absolute data for for tumuli region of Mbacké. So the permanent data provided that the red and roulette tradition, the biggest group of it was produced from about 500 to 900 AD. And it is mainly this coloratory pottery, which was already a little bit observed from Macintosh and Macintosh as well in this region, as well as further north. We've got this black tradition, which is much younger. So we can see that the material is completely other than the red tradition. And we received for this data from 1040 AD to 1065 AD. And this middle group is quite problematic because I had not possibility to make so many data. So for me, the most important was to date this first and this last group. And of course, if middle group have to be dated. Yeah, we have to provide more data to see. But when I consider the similarities with other regions, when I consider the information from the statistics, we can see that the first part of this group was probably produced from about 900 AD to 1300 AD. And the second part of this group was a little bit younger, from 1300 to 1400. Yeah, so I managed to make the first chronology, but at first we have to consider how good is it? How good the data are. So I discussed it also with some other colleagues from different institutions during the last conferences in the US. And at first, what speaks for my thesis? We've got correlation between distinguished pottery features in the statistics. We've got the thermoluminescence data, and also we've got the similarities between different assemblages from north and from the tumuli zone, which are corresponding to the time. So it all seems to be logical explanation at first of our problems with our chronology from the French, with our C14, and also it explains the big variability of our methods. But there are also some things which haven't been done yet or are not so good done. So at first I discussed it, especially with some colleagues from Europe, and they said me that in my approach I haven't consistent production method because in many different parts of the sub-Saharan Africa, it is so that the decorations are 1,500 years long in the use, but the production methods are changing faster than the decoration. And I hadn't considered it in my work because this pottery was very fine. Pottery was very fine, as well as the black tradition, as well as the red tradition and the roulette tradition. And it was not possible for me to see on many examples how the vessel was built. So it's a big problem. In this case, it would be necessary to make some X-ray investigation. But my work was to provide first to base. So it was not possible. But in a very little time, I also consider this production manner, because we can see this black pottery was burned without oxygen. So somehow people wanted to burn the pottery in this way, and it was so. So we can see already some different production. But of course, in this way, we have to make much more research, and I haven't done it. Also, thermoluminescence data are still very scarce. For example, what I said about this middle group, we do not have enough thermoluminescence data, and it has to be done. I think that the results which are provided are logical explanation of many problems. But of course, the research is a process, and at the very beginning, it is not possible to say, "Oh, it's right," it is not right. So, maybe you have some other idea. Maybe you can also interpret my results in some other way. We can discuss it during the discussion when you want. But before, we can go to the further point. So when we consider that my research results are okay, if I have received reliable results, we've got many other observations for power. At first, as I said, I confirmed the dating hypothesis of the scholarly twin pottery. It's a very important observation. I will show you afterwards on the map. Also, I made the chronology broader. So, for example, about this black tradition, now nobody has heard about it. So nobody has heard about it. So it's very, very new, very interesting new data. And we can see very, very average change in the material. So it's completely other with the result. So maybe something, and it would be very, very nice approach for very nice goal for the power research to see why this differentiation in the material. So yeah, and what is also very interesting, I think, are these similarities in style and in the decoration between different regions in the same time. So on the left, I provided you different examples of Mbacké. So we have a lot of this photo, and it has a lot of similarities to the project to the vessels from other regions. Especially here, for example, the double rim pottery. The double rim pottery was also found in the coastal regions in Senegal's area, as well as also in megalithic zone, where by the French researchers it was considered as import well. So it is theoretically possible that also in our region was involved in such contact. Yeah, but well, of course, on this step on the research, it is not possible to make some power interpretation. But all of these are very, very interesting observations, which we can use afterwards for the power. As well, it's very important also the similarities in the thought between Mbacké, between Darame, and also between Senegal, which were lays power east. So we know that Senegal was in about 20th century AD, at least partially part of the Mali Empire. So there may be something that's influenced there. It's still hard to interpret it, but very, very nice observation. The same observation is also what I already mentioned about the scholarly twin pottery from the north and from the our region. And as I already told, yeah, we have very similar data for the chronology from this chronology part from north and from our region. And here on the map, I provided you all the similarities. So we've got a lot of new points which we can use afterwards to discuss the past and to make many further investigations. So for example, now during my dissertation, during my doctoral thesis, I'm working in chat on the correlations between chronological records and between different regions. So I'm looking for contacts using, for example, network analysis. The same could be also done in Senegal. But to reach it, we have to reach some other goals in the future research. So at first, we need much more direct chronological data, not only from Mbacké, not only thermoluminescence analysis, but also we need such data in other parts of the tumuli region. We also need to establish similar typologies in other parts of the tumuli region because yeah, I received such data in the tumuli region of Mbacké, but I do not want to say that it is representative for the whole area. It's possible that in the near of Darame, for example, we've got some other data. So it will be also very regional. So we have to consider it. And also it would be nice to extend the chronology, maybe not later, but especially in the earlier period. So how it happens that such typologies develop. So it would be very nice. So a lot to do in the power research. My job was to provide some basic information about chronology, and I hope I managed. At the very end, I would like to thank you, especially Professor Dr. Mbacké from University of Frankfurt. She provided with me a lot of help, and she was also supervisor of work. Also, I would like to thank you, Nick Gestrich from Frobenius-Institut, and he helped me a lot of statistics and also and especially very thank you to many different institutions, also to German Research Foundation, Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, which provided financial support for my work. And also at the very end, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. I hope if you have some remarks, questions, or something like that. Thank you.